What is up, guys? Episode of 9 of MMA Dynasty podcast. First thing first, you guys probably noticed right away. Like, where's Lucas? And Lucas is a bit busy right now, so we're gonna try to get another podcast later this week with Lucas on it. Just the usual, me and Lucas. But for now, we wanted to get more content out. So we got my brother on here in the meantime, and Sammy Ross, he may be making MMA TikTok at some point in the future. We'll let you know about that. But Sammy, just to get started, what are your top 3 favorite fighters?
So first I'm gonna put Charles Oliveira. He's on an absolute tear right now. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu off the charts. Most submissions in UFC history. So I have to put him at number 1. And then the next 2 are more of fighters that I like their charisma. I like their trash talking. Sean Strickland and Colby Covington. I think Strickland showed us in that press conference why he's a hilarious talker. And Colby Covington's battles with Kamaru Usman on the mic and on the mat have been outstanding. And I like their witty chirps and whatnot.
Okay, interesting. That's so. You like the guy who, first of all, you like the guy who's the more quiet guy. I mean, not really quiet, but like less shit talking. And then you like the 2 guys who big shit talkers. That's funny.
Yeah. I feel like I have balance on that list, and it's also kind of 3 main parts of mixed martial arts in wrestling: striking with Strickland, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Oliveira, although he's shown to be far more than that. But yeah,
I like it. We talked about the other week that like if you're a fighter, you should be like talking shit, or at least like saying something, like giving the audience something. Like I don't know if you remember, but when Fiziev beat RDA after having a beauty knockout, he didn't, like, all he said on the mic was I want to fight Rafael Nadal. Like, it makes no sense. Like that's the best opportunity to get the fight you want, and it doesn't even need to be a disrespectful way. You just need to just call someone out, like you'd be like, oh, I'm the Justin Gaethje, I'm a better striker than you. Let's fight, or something like that. It could be anything. Just doesn't need to be respectful. No, it doesn't need to be disrespectful. So yeah, I respect Colby and Strickland for their trash talk. They also could back it up most of the times, which is what you need. Because if you're a guy who just talks shit, doesn't back it up, then you're not going to be the UFC for long. But so
I just wanted to say 2 things that kind of show what you're saying, where the first one that comes to mind is Brandon Moreno and Figueiredo. When there wasn't much disrespect there, they both hyped up their fight next, and I bet that probably got them a little extra bonus. And the other one I wanted to talk about was Michael Chandler, who's always been known to be great on the mic. I was going to put him in my favorite fighters, but he hasn't really done that for me yet. But after his crazy knockout against Tony Ferguson, he came on the mic, called out almost half the lightweight division, and with passion, you could really see it in his eyes. He wanted it, and that adrenaline was still pumping after the fight. And when you do have that adrenaline, it's a great time to let it out and speak on your mind.
Yeah, I want to say 2 things about that. First of all, the Figueiredo 4 thing. Honestly, like, at first it was so cool. It was going the right way, but I think they could have sold it a bit better. Like, it was like I feel like they were almost too respectful of each other. Like, they were too nice to each other. Like, it would have been even cooler. Would have been so much cooler if they said a little something, like, that doesn't even need to be disrespectful. Just something, I mean, they kind of just Figueiredo had that sick entrance and all. Then he got to the cage, and then was just all, and like gave him a hug or something. When I thought he was
definitely. Yeah, definitely confusing. I think
It was still a
also,
good promotion. It was still good.
yeah.
Like, I mean, it definitely helped, but I think they could have did that a little bit better. And then in terms of Michael Chandler, I do agree with you. Michael Chandler is one of my favorite fighters also. I want him to get a couple more wins, honestly, because like I feel like he's
Mhm.
done great things in Bellator, but I feel like in the UFC he hasn't done too much. I mean, like he knocked out Dan Hooker, which was very actually
Mhm.
that was impressive. Okay, that knocking out Dan Hooker was very impressive. Dan Hooker at that point has never been knocked out like that, or I
Yeah.
don't know if he's been knocked out at that point. But anyways, he knocked out Dan Hooker, got a title shot right after, got smoked by Oliveira. I mean, not really smoked. He got knocked out by
Yeah.
lost to Justin Gaethje, and then just beat KO'd an old Tony Ferguson. So it was a spectacular finish, but like I want to see Chandler get a few more wins in the UFC, and I think he'll definitely move up to my top 3 favorite fighters. And I don't know if I told you guys who my top 3 favorite fighters are on this podcast. I may have, so if I have, sorry, we're saying it again. But for sure, number 1 would be Chimaev. Number 2 would be Charles Oliveira, and number three is a tricky one. I mean, Colby maybe. Uh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I was going to put McGregor in there, but he's not really active enough right now. And I don't know how much longer his career will be. I was also going to put Derek Lewis in,
Derek Lewis.
but again, I don't know how much longer his career will be either. So yeah.
I have a question. What do you think of Israel Adesanya as a
I
fighter,
mean,
person, all that? Like, you think he's cringe? You think he's
okay.
boring? All that.
Um, at first glance, when I was first getting into UFC, he was introduced to me by one of my friends, and I thought he was pretty cool. I did like the antics at the beginning, and when you look at his highlight tape, you do have some statement knockouts, and you have that absolute brawl with Kelvin Gastelum, where he had a pretty cold moment when he said, "I'm ready to die for this." So, at first glance, I thought that he was this tough guy. And in the last few months, last year or so, he's gotten a little bit more on my nerves, a little bit. I still think he's a great fighter, great striker. But I would like to see him start to throw more power shots in these title fights. I feel like a lot of the time he's just jabbing his way to victory in a
Or just leg
division.
kicks.
Yeah, in a division full of guys that have less reach than you. So, you're a great striker, and you're on center stage in front of all the spotlight, and you have some of the most creative striking. Use it. Mix in elbows, get that his signature question mark kick. Him and Rockhold both have amazing question mark kicks, and I would like to see Izzy use his striking more because he's shown what he's capable of, but he's been a shell of himself in his last few fights, just throwing jab after jab.
What do you think changed? Because he had actually, I don't even know if anything changed, because he had the Whitaker title fight, which was very impressive, great knockout. And then he had the Romero, like, boring fight, really boring fight, actually, one of the most boring fights history of UFC. And then he had the Costa knockout, which was super impressive. That was a fun fight. And then he got smoked by Jan Blachowicz. And then after that, every fight was super boring. Do you think that Jan Blachowicz fight made him a more fight in a way that's like more cautious, or do you think he had that in him before? Because on the come up, he was not boring at all. And yes, in the last 12 months or so, a little bit longer, he just became super boring, and then that's not even including his cringy trash talk. You know what I mean? Like you can't, this is the problem with it. Look, you can't like have an entrance, have a WWE type
Mhm.
entrance, acting like the Undertaker, all that, and win a fight by like just having some light leg kicks and jabs. Like you just can't do that, you know? Like if you're gonna make a big statement like that, like as an entrance, you have to finish the guy or at least make it entertaining. And he did not make that entertaining at all. And that was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also think that it takes two to make a boring fight. And you look at his track list of opponents recently, and he's fought against some killers, some dangerous guys. His name's literally the Killer Gorilla. But yeah, if you understand that you're going to be in danger, have a game plan where you're not going to attack too much. And I assume he was probably practicing a similar game plan in camp. Why are you going up and hyping up the fight like that when you know that it's about to fire right back in your face? I understand talking in press conferences, he wants people to tune in, but once it gets to fight night and people are already tuned in, there's no need for that. There really isn't. You should be focusing on your fight. And I think that it's a little too much. I know that there are probably younger viewers that will like that. So I think he does cater to that WWE-esque audience, but it's a little too much for me. It's a little too much for me. And I do think back to what you were saying that he had this in him all along. And once he proved something, he was ready to win by decisions. And one of the problems that he did have in Glory Kickboxing was losing it in these boring decision fights because he wouldn't throw enough volume. He would play it safe. And the judges in Glory did not like that. So I think he has to prove himself once again, which he is capable of doing.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't like the antics of the fight night. Like you can't have an Undertaker like entrance and win by a boring decision. Like you just can't do that. And I want to also ask you something. Who do you think wins, Alex Pereira or Israel Adesanya? And do you think this is his last chance to put on an entertaining fight?
I'll answer the latter question first with yes. I do think that it's definitely probably his last time because if he makes this a boring fight, that'll be 3 in a row, including
4 in a row.
some people say
4 in a row.
4.
Vittori
And
fight.
some people call that Whitaker decision questionable. And back to who will win, I feel like there are paths to victory for both. And Israel Adesanya, I think, outweighs him in experience with elbows, clinch work, whatnot. But I think Pereira has that boom factor. He has that one-shot knockout, which can come at any moment, like we saw in the welterweight championship with Leon Edwards. So I feel like Izzy is in dangerous waters, and he knows that. And I hate to say it, but I feel like we might see another boring Izzy fight because he's not going to stand there and bang with Alex Pereira. That's how he got himself in trouble last time. In that match, he had a decision in his hands and he got greedy. He smelt the blood. He had Pereira on the ropes and he got greedy and it cost him the fight. So I think that he'll be extra careful in this fight. I think you might see him even more careful than he's ever been. But the factor that is different is the reach. So Pereira can bring the fight to Izzy. He can make it interesting himself, but it's a matter of how Izzy will play against Pereira. But I think Pereira will be looking for blood. He'll be looking for the finish and wants to destroy Izzy for the third time.
Do you think that Pereira will let it be a boring fight though? Because I feel like in the past, like the reason one of the reasons why they were boring fights was because the opponent like had a way shorter reach, and if he like really like tried to like get on the inside, he'd get sparked up by Izzy. But Pereira has a longer reach than Izzy, taller than Izzy. Like, will he be able to like be cautious with Pereira? Like, I don't think so, because like, yeah, like I don't think he could be cautious with Pereira. I think he's gonna try to, but it's not gonna work. I think regardless of what happens, if it's boring or whatever, I think at some point he's gonna get caught by Pereira. Pereira is just like one is just a guy where like I mean we've hardly seen guys like this ever. Like we're at some point always he'll catch somebody with those 4 ounce, especially with those 4 ounce gloves. Like so at some point I could see it like you said the Leon fight. I could see Israel being up 4 rounds to none and Pereira finishing him with a left hook in the 5th round. Like I think that at some point, no matter what, no matter how cautious Izzy is, he's gonna get caught by Pereira.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a dangerous possibility. What I do think Israel will use a little bit more, which I'm happy about, is his kicking because he doesn't have the arm reach. He has a 1 inch advantage, which probably will not play a huge part. So I think he'll mix it up. I hope he'll mix it up. Get inside. I mean, I think that he's going to try to manage his distance well with kicks. And honestly, I hope that he does some clinch work, a few elbows in the clinch, and uh, I I still kind of do want Izzy to win, but at the same time, Pereira being champion would be a lot more interesting because there are other guys that I think would probably beat Pereira. Um, Although I don't think Izzy is one of those guys because this is striker versus striker. And the reality is, Pereira has beat him twice in striking. I know it's a little bit different rules, but like you said, that knockout can come almost any time, and that is dangerous. Um, I think it might be a boring fight, though, still.
I just if you're Pereira, do you go with it being slow though? Like, or do you try to make it more of a brawl? Because like I think like I also don't know if Izzy could edge out Pereira in a close decision fight just because they're both pretty even, I guess, in the striking department, but Pereira just has the power. So I don't even like know. I mean, if it was a really close decision fight, I think they'd give it to Izzy just because he's the champ. But I don't even know if he could edge out a decision win against Pereira. I really don't. And I just like, but honestly, I actually do think this is going to be an interesting fight. I don't think it's going to be another boring Izzy fight. I think Izzy is going to go in very emotional for this fight. I think he will. And I think it could really hurt him because, like, if you look at the interviews, you see when Israel Adesanya is asked about Alex Pereira, he just gets super emotional and all that. And when Alex Pereira is asked about Israel Adesanya, he's just like, he's like, I'm looking forward to the fight, like whatever, all that stuff. So like Izzy is clearly super emotional about that, whether it's good or bad. Like it could make him work harder in the training camp, but at the same time, it can make him like be a bit, I guess, like a little hesitant, maybe, like to avoid that left hand of Pereira. And you can't really like go in the cage too scared or too emotional, or else it'll backfire, And I think Izzy's emotions going into this fight are going to hurt him, and I think Pereira will finish him in the first 3 rounds. Honestly, I really do.
I I agree that his emotions may hurt him. I think they'll help the fans because it'll probably end up making it a more interesting fight. And the other thing that I wanted to note too um, was the city kickboxing effect. We saw with Alex Volkanovski the huge strides that he's made in the past few years. Kai Kara France, great striker. And I think that Izzy has gotten better since those glory kickboxing days. I think that Pereira has too. So I think it will be more of who has gotten better since then. And with that, I feel like I do want to give that edge to Izzy because he's been fighting world champions. So I think that since their last fight, Izzy has gotten a lot better, but we'll have to see how much better Pereira has too.
The thing about those, I disagree. I think Pereira got more, like he's improved more. And the reason I think he's improved more is because when Pereira fought Izzy both times, he was like dealing with a lot outside of the ring. I think it was like alcohol like abuse or something. I think he may have been alcohol or something. Not exactly quite sure the details about that, but something along those lines. So he was not fully focused on fighting at that point. And like if you really look back on his kickboxing career, he actually got better after, like, he beat better guys after he beat Izzy the 2 times. And also about that, he's beat guys that Izzy lost to in kickboxing. So like I think Pereira is going to be better, a lot more better than Izzy. Like I think Pereira has taken bigger leaps since their last 2 fights than Izzy has. Yeah, I'm looking forward for Israel Adesanya to get finished, and I don't think he's gonna, like we said last week or the week before, he's not gonna want the rematch after he gets finished again by Alex Pereira. Like if you get knocked out by a guy twice, like you're not gonna want a rematch. So I mean, if he does, then props to him. But I think he's gonna get knocked out so badly that he won't want a rematch. But that's besides the point. And I just I don't really I don't get how anybody could be rooting for Israel Adesanya in this next fight, because like if Israel wins, there's gonna be continue being more and more boring title fights. And if Pereira wins, like let's say they may do the rematch, whatever, Pereira will beat him again. And then Whitaker or someone will get a title shot. Whitaker will beat him, because I think Whitaker would beat Pereira.
I agree.
Which is weird because like it's funny because Whitaker can't beat Izzy, or like he hasn't beaten Izzy. And Izzy could beat Whitaker, but Izzy can't beat Pereira. So it's a little weird. But I think I think Pereira's gonna win, knock him out so badly he doesn't want the rematch. And then I think Whitaker will get the next title shot, and I think Whitaker will be the next champion. And I that's what I'm cheering for. I really like Robert Whitaker. He's also one of my favorite fighters for sure.
Do you know who would also be a nightmare matchup for Pereira? I think Marvin Vettori. That guy has a chin on him, and he can wrestle. He can clinch. He throws good combos, and he has a good gas tank. I would like to see that fight too, because I remember I was watching Pereira's only MMA loss. That guy he was fighting against took some shots. And eventually he kind of tired out Pereira and pulled a rear naked choke. So, I mean, I think that would probably be the worst matchup for Pereira, and I can see more bad matchups in that division, which I think makes Izzy's title run more impressive. But it's interesting how MMA math works.
Yeah, and I also think with that is that like I don't think Vettori will have a chance to get a title shot maybe ever again though, because he's gonna get smoked by Whitaker. We'll give our actual predictions later on in the episode, but I think Vettori is gonna get smoked by Whitaker, like absolutely smoked, 50-45. Like it's not gonna be close, but like so I see Whitaker getting a title shot in the future potentially if when Pereira beats Izzy. I also could see a guy like Paulo Costa maybe moving up the rankings, and then eventually maybe getting a second title shot. He's not too old, and I think Paulo Costa, like I think if he go into the future in future fights, if let's say he fights against Izzy again or Pereira, I think he should bring in some wrestling, because like I don't think it'd be too difficult for him to take down a guy like Izzy or Pereira just because he's so strong, you know. And then if Costa can get Izzy on the ground, then he's holding him on the ground, like, you know. And that's kind of what you need. Like against Israel Adesanya, like if a really good
You need to
wrestler,
mix it up.
if a really good wrestler fights Israel Adesanya, he's gonna get smoked. That division just doesn't really have many good wrestlers, unfortunately. So like if a guy like Chimaev moves up in a division, moves up to 85, I could see him like submitting Izzy in the first round, honestly, because like he's just way better grappler than and wrestler than a guy like Robert Whitaker and Marvin Vettori, who were able to take down Izzy kind of easily. I know they couldn't really hold him down, but again, Chimaev is a way better wrestler than both those guys. So I can honestly see if Chimaev moves up to 185, he'd submit Israel Adesanya in the first round. I really think so. And that's gonna be interesting also to see like what like Chimaev is honestly screwed if Pereira beats Izzy, and because he probably won't get the title shot, the next title shot in the welterweight division, because it looks like they're gonna run back the Usman Edwards fight, which I'm not happy about, because it's likely if Usman wins, he'll retire, because he doesn't want to fight Chimaev. But so it's gonna be interesting to see, like, will Chimaev get a title shot quicker in 170, or will we get it quicker in 85? So like if I'm Chimaev, I'm cheering for Israel Adesanya in this next fight. But also like I said, I do see Izzy maybe not wanting to fight Pereira again if he gets finished. So I don't know. We'll see. But I just hope Chimaev gets a title shot soon, whether it's 85 or 70, because I think those are very favorable matchups in either one. Like I think he'd smoke Leon. I think he'd finish Leon in the first round. I think he'd finish Usman in the second round. Like I think that's light work for him. And I think Israel Adesanya would be even easier. Israel Adesanya has got no wrestling. He's yet to face a good wrestler. So, and Chimaev is not just a good wrestler, he's an elite wrestler. He's one of the best wrestlers the UFC has ever seen. So I think if he fought Izzy, I think you'd pick him up, slam him on the ground, and submit him in the first round.
Yeah, I was watching an All Access on Sean Strickland during his camp with Khamzat, Till, Chris Curtis, just multiple guys. And the clip has gone pretty viral. Some of you guys might have seen it, where Sean Strickland is the one telling Khamzat to chill out during sparring. And usually Strickland has been known to, take it to the next level in striking. And I think he's gotten better with that. And I think he's become a better leader in his camps. But it was funny. He said, Khamzat, you're way better than everyone here. You got to take it down a notch, okay? You're a lot better than everyone, and you don't want to hurt them. So I think that speaks levels to what the MMA community thinks about Khamzat, and what a lot of us do know about Khamzat. He's a killer. He's a monster. And whether it's at 170 or 185, he's coming for that belt soon.
Yeah, that was actually a great clip. And honestly, I liked Strickland's attitude in that clip. Like he seemed like you said, he seemed like a leader. Like he's just so likable in that clip, like he's just such a likable guy, Strickland. Like he seems like a generally like good dude, like I know he says all that shit, but it's like it's for entertainment, but he seems like a good dude, So I definitely like Strickland. And that video, like, yeah, that was funny because like they're right, like I think people are being misled from that Burns fight and are thinking Chimaev is worse than he really is. Like people got to realize what happened in that fight. What happened is that Chimaev thought he was going to get Burns out easily. He underestimated Burns. And in other fights, like other fighters, Amanda Nunes, when she underestimated Juliana Pena, lost. A lot of the fighters who get in a situation where they underestimate their opponent and they think they're going to get their opponent out in the first round or something, like light work, they end up losing. A lot of the fighters end up losing in that case. And Chimaev ended up still winning in that case. And to make matters crazier, that was his first fight with a guy in the top 10 fighting literally a top 3 guy in the division. That's ridiculous. And going into round 3, it was 1-1, like 1-1 against a vet like Burns, like, and you win that. That's crazy. That's unbelievable, honestly. And like, I think in Chimaev's next, I mean, Nate Diaz, you're not going to be able to really see much in it. Like, I think he's just going to pick him up, slam him on the ground, finish him. But I think in the future fights, like when he fights for his next title shot, when he gets his title shot finally, um, I think the opponents are gonna be in for a rude awakening, you know. I think he's gonna be a lot better than they think, you know. And I think, yeah, I really hope Leon. I honestly I think if Chimaev gets the title shot at 170 before he gets 85, no, regardless, I think it is going to be against Leon. Because you think of this, look, if Leon loses to Usman, Usman's definitely going to retire. If Leon beats Usman, he's and so look, let me say this again. So if Leon beats Usman, he's going to fight Chimaev for the belt. If Leon loses to Usman, Usman's going to retire. So Leon will likely fight for the vacant belt against Chimaev anyways. So it's going to be Leon versus Chimaev as the next title shot after Usman Edwards 3. So, and I think that's just an easy matchup for Chimaev. Like I think Edwards is not like, look, Edwards got the takedown in the last fight, but I think that was more because Usman didn't expect it, you know. But like the other 4 rounds, he was getting taken down easy, you know. And if Usman's a great wrestler, but he's no Chimaev. So like if Usman can take you down easily, imagine what Chimaev would do to him, you know. So, and in terms of the Usman fight, I mean, everybody I'm sure wants to see that Usman Chimaev fight at some point. I think it would have been a lot. It's not as hype. There won't be as much hype as it would have been if Usman beat Leon. Like in the second fight, the second time they fought. But I still think that's a big fight, and I think Chimaev would smoke him because like if Leon could take your back like almost submit Usman, then Chimaev is submitting you in that situation. You know, he's way stronger than Usman, and I think that's why Usman has been so good. Honestly, it's not his skill, not at all. It's his strength. You know, like and power. That's why Usman's so good. It's nothing to do with his skill. He's a shit striker. He's a good wrestler, but a lot of his wrestling has to do with his strength, you know. And I think a guy who's stronger than him would smoke him, you know, because like he'll likely have less skill than the guy. Usman will likely have less skill than the guy. And I think in terms of Chimaev Usman, Chimaev's a way better striker than Usman, more power than Usman. He's stronger than Usman, taller than Usman, longer reach, all that. Like Usman's never fought a guy who's stronger than him. And it's not just a guy, it's Chimaev, you know, like, so I think Usman knows that he would get smoked by Chimaev. So like, if he wins, he's going to retire for sure. And I just don't think there is anything to really like, I don't blame Usman. I don't blame him, Usman, for retiring. It's a great story. Like if you come back from a devastating loss, win the belt back and then retire, like that's a good story. Like, and like, especially, and like, I'm sure Usman is like, okay, like Chimaev is he must know that Chimaev is a very tough fight. So I don't think there's any point of taking that risk, you know, like, so I don't, and he's also 35. He'd be 36 at the point if he were to fight Chimaev. And I just don't think like his career is only going downhill from here. You know, you don't want it where like you want it to always be a mystery. Like what would have happened if Usman fought Chimaev? You know what I mean? Like you want that a mystery, like Khabib and Charles. Like we will never know who would win, Charles or Khabib. And I think that's a good thing, you know, because like let's, you know what I mean? Like I think that's a good thing.
It's good to have suspense. It's good to have suspense and mystery.
It's good, but
I think that with Usman versus Chimaev, the thing with Usman is I don't know if he is still wanting to relinquish or revive his legacy. You know, having that loss really hurt his legacy of all time. And I know that he was talking before about going through the division twice, beating all the best guys. So, I mean, I'm not in the mind of Usman. I don't know exactly what's going through his mind, but I would like to think that a champion like that will want to keep going. So I do hope to see that Khamzat fight because although the mystery is nice between Charles and Khabib, a fight between Charles and Khabib would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. It would be amazing groundwork. And I think it would just be such a high level fight that would be such a treat to the viewers. Um, Same thing with Khamzat versus Usman in a different way. I feel like it would be a brawl. And uh, I think that Khamzat will probably win. But when you talk about not having the skill and that stuff, I'm not 100% sure about the power. I think it's definitely far closer than any of his other opponents. Um, but Usman was also completely outskilled against Leon Edwards, but he managed to dig and
He's stronger.
I think that I also think that cardio is a big weapon of Usman. The pace that he fights at is really hard for other people to fight at, and I don't think that Gilbert Burns versus Chimaev fight uh, was the pace as say Usman versus Covington match. So I think Chael Sonnen once said this that a gas tank is some people's skill set. And I think we've seen that firsthand with Kobe, where he tires out his opponents and makes them want to quit. We've seen it with Khabib. So I think we can't underestimate the gas tank of Usman, but at the same time, I do think that Khamzat will probably beat him and will probably hold that championship for really long because he is a martial artist of the highest pedigree. And I don't see a lot of guys beating him at his weight class or at the above weight class. He's a killer. He doesn't care about anything besides smashing. That's what he does. He wants to smash them all. So I really do see a bright future in Khamzat, whether Usman's in that picture or not. But I'm just excited to see him, rise to the top. And I think that Gilbert Burns fight did a lot of good for his career because you want to get a fight like that over with before you're facing against a world champion. Because although Gilbert Burns is a great contender, a top contender in that, he's not Kamaru Usman. I don't know how much better Kamaru Usman is exactly, but I know that Usman has a little bit more dog in him, I think, than Gilbert Burns. Where after that Khamzat fight, Burns was happy. He was happy with the brawl they put up. He was happy with his effort. But I think that Usman has a little bit more compete in him. And I think let's not underestimate Gilbert Burns either, because he is a great martial artist and no one's going to get through him that easily. I understand that Kamaru Usman caught him with a jab and TKO'd him, but I feel like after that, he was a hard guy to get through, especially coming off Li Jinglang. Li Jinglang is good. He's the leech. He's got power, but that's a huge jump for anyone. And no matter the sparring, no matter the training camp, when you get in that octagon and feel the power of Gilbert Burns and see his speed, his technique, his movement, his ground game, it's hard to shoot a takedown. It's hard to hold him on the ground. It's hard to land clean shots. And Khamzat did a lot of those. So I think it was a really impressive performance for a young prospect who will take the crown soon.
Let me actually have three questions for you. First, regarding Chimaev. First question is, do you think that Usman could have did what Chimaev did to the leech?
Yeah.
Fashion.
Yeah, I think it probably would have been spread out over a longer time. I think maybe he could have ended it there. It kind of depends upon the volume output that he put through. But I think he did something similar to Tyron Woodley, where he just kept taking him down and just ground and pound on him. I think Usman is capable of having that ground and pound. Yeah, I think he has the strength of Chimaev. I just think Chimaev's striking is also a lot better. And I think that overall, his really technique on the ground is better than Usman. Usman has sheer strength. He knows what positions to get you and to make you uncomfortable. But I think Khamzat is a very creative wrestler. I saw this some crazy videos of him on the mats when he was younger, of pulling off like spin moves, um, some really big takedowns that really blew my mind because I've seen him, pick guys up, throw them down, but I haven't really seen him go against uh, a strong wrestler. And seeing those clips at the highest level was really impressive to me. And I think the whole MMA community, 170 and 185, is kind of just counting down the days until Chimaev comes knocking, because he is ready. He wants to go. He has that dog in him. He has that fire. He has the chip on his shoulder. And he has a great group around him too. I think you also have to give credit to his coaches in that Gilbert Burns fight, coaching him to that third round victory, because although he didn't listen to a lot of the things they say, which did not help him, but I think they lit that fire similar to Edwards' coaching, where they give that talk when you're in the corner and it lights the fire under you. Having a great coach like that really motivates you, because guys do have that self-motivation. But when you're in those depths, when you're in those deep waters, it's hard to find it in yourself. And sometimes you just need a push behind you. And his coaches, I feel like, did that against Gilbert Burns.
Kind of forgot my second question. In terms of my third question, it's actually a statement. I just want to see what you think. But now I remember my second question. But let me first say my first question. No, my third. It's all messed up. But let me just give my take. I think Chimaev could beat, or I think Chimaev, like, speaking of, I don't know if you saw, but KSI fought two people in one night. I think Chimaev could finish Leon Edwards and Colby Covington in the same night, both first round finishes.
I think if it comes down to a finish, then yes. But I think if either of them, mostly the Colby one, does go a longer length, I feel like the output in that fight won't really help him too much. I think it's definitely doable. I really wouldn't put anything past Khamzat at this point. Like, he really continues to blow our minds. And like, I feel like he kind of is this sort of robot creature, like, where
you just can't lose. You can't lose.
I don't know if he can yet. I don't know if he has it in him. He may be similar to Jon Jones, where he'll be down in a fight and he just doesn't allow himself to let up and somehow finds a way, no matter how injured he is, no matter how tired he is. So I wouldn't put that past him, but I think that's easier said than done.
Yes, but like, the thing is, like, you got to realize, like, Colby, like, this is what I don't understand, how people think Colby could beat Chimaev. Like, what would Colby do to Chimaev? Like, you know what I mean? Like, was Colby gonna strike with Chimaev? If you try to strike with Chimaev, he's getting finished right away. If Colby's gonna take down Chimaev, totally. There's no way. And what would Leon do to Chimaev? You know what I mean? Like, if he tries to strike,
I think Leon would. Yeah, I think that would be.
But I don't even think Chimaev would need to strike with him. Chimaev would be able to pick him up and throw him on the ground. Like, it's not like, I think those are just such easy matchups for Chimaev, and like, I think people are really, like, don't realize how good he truly is. You know what I mean? Like, like you said, like, you look back at his wrestling highlights, he is on another level wrestling wise than any of these guys. And also something else I wanted, you talked about it earlier. I'm speaking of the wrestling thing. Have you seen him grapple with Jack Hermanson?
Yeah, I saw that grappling match.
What he did,
Jack
Jack Hermanson, nobody could do to Jack Hermanson. He smoked him. And that's an 85, and he made him look small too, like, Chimaev was the bigger dude there, which is crazy to say, because Hermanson's not a small 85 at all. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, like, what division will Chimaev be better at, 70 or 85. I think 85.
I think 85. Yep.
I just don't know if
I,
he's
I,
picking up. I just don't know if he's picking people up and slamming them on the ground at 85. You know what I mean? Like I just can't see Chimaev like picking up Costa and slamming on the ground or something. But like I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
like you said, you can't put anything. Like you just have to expect anything from him at this point. You know, like
Mhm.
so.
I think only time will tell. I think it's going to be exciting to see. We can expect this, we can expect that, but we won't know until he fights against Leon. We won't know until he fights against Colby. Uh, but I think we can have a few takeaways from this Diaz fight. I think if
That's
it
actually
does
what I was
go,
going to ask you. That I was
yeah,
going to ask you, like, what would be considered impressive for Chimaev to do against Diaz? Because it's clear, like, he's going to beat Diaz. Like, this is an easy fight. This is just so Diaz retires for the UFC to get the
so
top
here are the
edge. But
takeaways
what would
that I
be
think.
impressive what would be impressive for Chimaev to win by against Diaz? Like, what would be impressive?
So I don't think that a first round TKO will be very impressive, because it doesn't show if his fighting IQ as the fight goes on has gotten better. It will just show what his last almost 13 fights have, or 10 fights have shown, where he's picking guys up, smashing them. So I don't think that would be his most impressive victory. I think digging deep, getting to that third round, maybe even fourth round, and scoring a vicious KO on Nate Diaz, KOing him for the second time. I think that would be more impressive because it would give us a larger sample size first. It would show us that he doesn't cruise. He's not ready to cruise to decisions. He doesn't want to. He's not ready to give up late rounds, and he's going to win in any way possible. So I want to see, the more of him I see in that cage, the happier I will be, and there will be more to dissect. With that said, if it goes to a fifth round decision, it will be underwhelming because he's the bigger guy, he's the stronger guy, he's the better grappler, he's the better wrestler. So the only thing that I really think Diaz is even close with as him is their jujitsu, which I still don't think is very close. And the other thing is Diaz does have that pace. So I think it'll give us a better idea of how a match with him versus Colby would play out. But I think with Leon Edwards, we won't know how that match will play out until it happens. Because I don't think we saw the best of Leon Edwards
Yeah,
on
I
Saturday
agree. I
night.
agree with you on that.
I don't think that that's what he has to offer. I think he has more to offer. And I think with the experience in the championship fights, he'll get better. I think his takedown defense is better than what he showed. So I don't think that Khamzat will pick him up and slam him down. I think that it will be more of a chess match with Leon. And I think that Khamzat will probably win because he has that power over him. But we have seen Leon now KO someone viciously with a head kick. He also has the fastest K, or has one of the fastest KOs in UFC history with like a 9 or 6 second KO. So I don't think that Leon's power should be underestimated. And if Khamzat comes in underestimating Leon, it will be a longer night for him. I don't know if he'll lose, but it will be a harder night than it would be if he prepared himself and expected the best from Leon. Because if he's looking at that Usman fight and saying, this is going to be an easy fight, I'm going to drag him around for 5 rounds, I don't think that's going to be the best thing for him. And I don't think he's saying that. I would hope not, because Leon is a really good fighter and just did not showcase his best the other night, and he acknowledged that himself. So I'm excited for how it'll play out.
How do you think Chimaev will how will the start of the fight go? Like, do you think Chimaev is going to come out there and like try striking with him to start, or do you think he's just going
With Leon,
for against Diaz? You think he's going to go out there and start trying striking with him, or do you think he's going to go out there and shoot for a takedown right away?
Um, I feel like he's gonna strike with him because Diaz is honestly less of a threat to him on the feet than he is on the ground. Because although Khamzat is a great wrestler, a great grappler, guys can get caught in submissions, especially early when you're dry, submission stick, guillotine stick, triangle stick, you know. And I don't think that that's as much of a chance that he wants to take. I don't think Leon's gonna knock, or I don't think Nick or Nate is gonna knock him out. Uh, I just don't see that happening. So,
Hey, there's
what's to be scared of on the feet? You know what I mean? Kamzat's shown that he's a strong, powerful striker, um, and I bet that he's continued to get better at it. Um, I would like to see him like mix in some kicks and stuff because I like he's a great boxer, but I want to see more, I want to see some creativity from Kamsat. Another guy who, people compare to him sometimes, and who I think we'll be talking about today, is Shavkat Rakhmonov, who, has some really cool head kick KOs. So I want to see some really cool knockouts from Khamzat, and I want to see that in this Nate Diaz fight. No one's ever done it to Diaz before except one guy. So I mean, I want to see Khamzat do some damage. Give him a little beating and put his lights out.
Yeah, I honestly think that I agree with you. I don't think he's I don't know. I could see it in both ways. Like I can totally see Chimaev going straight to the wrestling.
He could
But
do either. He could do either,
he
and
could do
he'll do
either.
well at both.
It's crazy because I just think that there's Nate Diaz possesses no risk to Chimaev at all. Like he could treat him like a little bitch, Like he will treat him like a little bitch. Like he doesn't. There's no he's in no danger against Nate Diaz at all. And I honestly,
Like maybe a submission,
he's not.
but probably not.
He's too small. He's not strong enough to submit him. Like, look, what I think is going to happen is I think Chimaev, they're going to get on the feet. I think he's just going to knock him out viciously. I think it's going to be a bad knockout. Like, I think it's going to be Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler-esque, or Leon Edwards, like head kick Usman, like similar to those knockouts. But I think it's viciously. I think Diaz is going to get viciously knocked out in the first minute. And also, I want to say something else about that. And I don't think Diaz really knows what he's getting himself into. You know what I mean? Like, the dude isn't a smart guy by any means. And like, I think like he's a bit delusional, I think he's gonna I don't think he realizes like what he's getting himself into. Like, he's never fought a guy like Chimaev ever. And I just think like there's levels to this, and I think Chimaev is gonna get in there first minute, viciously KO him. But you talked about somebody earlier, and I want to like segue to the next topic because we've been talking about Chimaev for a while. Shavkat Rakhmonov. So apparently, he wanted the wonderboy fight. Yeah, he called wonderboy out after his last win. And wonderboy finally answered to that and says he doesn't want to fight another heavy grappler. And look, I completely agree with Wonderboy. I do not give him any slack for that. And the reason I don't give him slack for that is because, look, a lot of the times I feel like I'm not for fighters ducking other fighters. But in this case, like, we all know what's going to happen, I mean, and even he knows what's going to happen, like, so I don't blame him for that because that's what would happen. Shavkat would just take him down right away and slam him like and ground and pound him. Like it would nobody that wouldn't show anything to the fans, to the division. You want to have him fight a guy who's definitely better than the that like you want him to move up in rankings in the rankings and fighting better guys. But you want him to fight a guy who's like decent on the ground. So at least like we can like see like how good he truly is on the ground. Like maybe like
what I think winner of Sean Brady versus Bilal Muhammad.
I could see that, but I also eventually, maybe not next fight, but in 2 fights, I want to see him fight Gilbert Burns. I want to see.
I'd also like to see him fight Kobe.
I want to see what. Yeah, that'd be a good fight too. But I don't
Both
think
of those. I
Colby,
think any in the top 5 are good for
Colby
him.
is not. Colby doesn't want to fight Shavkat. There's no way he wants to fight Shavkat. Colby picks easy opponents. You know, like he'll fight. He'll call out like Tony Ferguson or something. I don't know. Colby wants easy fights, so he's not gonna fight a guy like who's a scary guy like Shavkat. And the thing about, but like in terms of Shavkat, I think it's just kind of tough. Like you said, like Sean Brady, Bilal Muhammad, potentially the winner will fight him. But dude, would they though? Like, would they want to fight him?
Maybe the loser. But
No,
I
I don't
think
even.
he has to fight someone in that top 5.
What about someone on the TikTok? I talked about this last week. I posted a clip. What about, which actually is a good fight. What about Neil?
I was gonna say that Geoff Neal, because Geoff Neal is 6, Stephen Thompson is 7, so similar rank, both strikers. I feel like what I want to say about Thompson is he has 1 win by submission. His takedown defense is 64%, which isn't outstanding. You know, it's decent.
That's kind of bad. Kind of bad, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And his losses have come at the likes of Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns, Tyron Woodley, and then Darren Till and Pettis, who are both, skilled strikers.
But he loses to wrestlers,
Yeah, exactly. His main losses and, his recent losses have been to wrestlers. And I don't think it's fair to him at the age of 39. He's done a lot for this sport. He's done a lot for striking. He's a great guy. He's been nothing but the nicest guy to the UFC.
Nicest guy in the
literally
UFC.
won the NMF. So I don't think it's right morally to feed him to the wolves, literally. Like it's not right, especially coming off a 2-fight losing streak, because you have an older guy, 39, who, if he loses to Shavkat, is now on a 3-fight losing streak, and he's probably turning 40 soon. And after you lose 3 fights, you're thinking, maybe father time is catching up. So I want them to give him a fun fight, give him a fight that he can wake up for and be excited for, rather than be scared for. And if he gets a win, it prolongs his career, which helps the UFC. So having him fight against a guy like Shavkat is going to just shorten his career and make him more inclined to retire. So I think they should really match him up against another striker. I don't know exactly who it'll be. I want to see Masvidal. We all want to see him against Masvidal.
Rematch.
Yeah, and I think Thompson might win it again. Honestly, like I don't know how much Masvidal has left in him. He suffered a few devastating losses recently. Thompson lost 2 decisions, didn't take a ton of damage. I mean, he did, but like
he got sat on by Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, sitting on him. And I think that he's still a higher level striker than Masvidal. So I feel like he's still beating Masvidal. And you want to give a guy who's fought for a world title, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. You want to give him a fairy tale ending, especially when he has been nothing but great to your organization. So I hope that the UFC does not book him for Shavkat.
I don't think they will. I think it's Shavkat versus Neil next. I could totally see it, and I could see Brady, Bilal winner will fight Colby maybe. Like, because I don't think Colby. That's like kind of the only fight that really makes sense for Colby at this point. And Chimaev obviously. Okay, that's not true actually. I think Burns, Chimaev, those and then the winner of Bilal. That those are the only fights that make sense for Colby at this point. And I think he doesn't want to fight Chimaev. I
I
think
have a feeling
I
he
think
might
will
end up
fight
fighting
Burns.
Burns.
I
I
would
think he might.
that's what I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping that the UFC books Burns versus Covington. I am really hoping for that because like, but at the same time though, like for Burns, what is that like a win with Covington? Like, are they really gonna give him another title shot? Like,
I
I,
think they might. I mean, Covington
actually,
is
I
the
do
second contender.
because also if he were to because of how the Chimaev fight went, also I think that'd be more. And if when Chimaev's champion, I
Exactly.
think they would be down for the rematch. But yeah, I want to see the fight. I'd want to see Colby. I'd want to see Burns Covington. I think that'd be a really good fight. I don't even know who I'd favor though. Like I think that's a 50-50 fight. Maybe Burns just because he's better on the feet. And I don't really know if you like people avoid bringing Burns to the ground because of his jiu-jitsu. So, and that's kind of what Colby would do to win. So like I would probably actually favor Burns, but Bilal Muhammad, Sean Brady winner. I could also see Colby taking one of those fights as those guys don't really possess much danger. You know, they just sit on people.
I feel like Kobe
Two
would beat
most
both
boring
of them.
fighters in the UFC, so I don't think there'd be much danger in that. But a guy like Shavkat, there's a lot of danger in. And there isn't anything to gain for Colby, you know, like that's kind of
Mhm.
similar to when Burns fought Chimaev. Like if with a win against those guys doesn't really do anything because people could just be like, oh, there goes the hype. One of the new Darren Till or something, you know, like there's no like it is not going to make you really go get a chance. You're not going to get a title shot by beating these guys. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, you're not going to really get closer to a title shot with beating those guys. So that's why these guys can't really get there. It's hard for them to get fights, you know? So, but I think Shavkat's going to fight Neil. I think Bilal winner will fight Colby. And I think, Chimaev will just be waiting to fight for the belt. But I hope in the future, like we see a Shavkat Chimaev fight for the belt would be crazy. Because honestly,
Yeah,
dude, like I think those are the two best people in that division. I think
100%.
Shavkat beats everybody but Chimaev, you know, and I think Chimaev beats everybody. Like those guys are different level, you know, amazing wrestlers, great strikers too, you know. But yeah, I'm excited to see where Chimaev and Shavkat's careers go. And speaking of like, just to segue to the next topic. Sorry guys, I don't want to be here for be talking for too long. So let's get to the next topic. Jose Aldo retirement. Uh, this was a bit odd in my opinion. I don't know if you saw, but Marab pretty much is like on the Ariel Helwani show said that Jose Aldo told him he was going to retire. And I don't think Marab had any intentions of like being rude or anything. But I feel like you can't really tell people that, you know, just because like you want, especially a legend, to like announce his retirement properly, you know. So like
I don't know if it's true either
really,
because his coach denied it a day ago. So
really
I,
okay.
I don't
Well,
know
that
if it's
changed.
true. Yeah, I think that
Well, do you think he will
I think
retire?
maybe what um I think soon. I think if he goes if he wins his next fight, I think that he'll keep going. But I think with him, his next loss will be his retirement.
I
That's what
think
I
they,
think.
I think they should have him fight Dominic Cruz. Jose Aldo,
I would
Dominic.
love to see that. I would love to see that.
I'd want to see that fight. I think that's a
I
very.
don't think Jose Aldo wants to fight against another wrestler. I don't
I
think he wanted to fight in that Marab fight either.
I think the
He
thing.
likes fighting against strikers.
I think it was kind of unfortunate with what happened with that fight. I think there was more Aldo could have done. Like I don't blame Marab for what he did because that was his way of winning, you know. But Aldo, I think there was more he could have done, and it was kind of like interesting to see that like how like I feel like when you're that close to a title shot, like at that age, being a legend like him, like you'd have some more urgency, and he just didn't seem like he had urgency in that fight. So that was a bit unfortunate to see. But I want them to book I'm hoping that they book a Dominic Cruz Aldo fight. I think that'd be a really that two greats fighting against each other is always entertaining. But some more news. We'll talk about this quickly. It's like doesn't need much talking about, but Hasim Rahman Jr. versus Vitor Belfort. And first thing, I think this is a good matchup. But the thing I'm really surprised about is that Hasim was able to get another big fight, because after that whole Jake Paul incident, I thought that Rahman would not be able to get any more big fights because nobody would want to work with him because of what he did. But this is a big fight, like he's gonna get paid here. And yeah, I mean, good on him. But I was kind of surprised with that. But what do you think of that fight? And are you surprised by that?
I am surprised too, because I feel like a guy after a whole scandal like that, he would be a little bit blacklisted from the boxing community. But I think the reason why he's not is because it came from Jake Paul. So I don't know how much the entire boxing community trusts Jake Paul. I don't know how much they're on his side. And
They're not on his side, I don't think.
yeah, so I think that definitely played into it not having as large an effect on Rahman. But like I want Vitor to knock him out. I hope Vitor goes back on the juice for this fight and just knocks him out because I don't like
Rahman's
Rahman.
annoying.
Like
He's annoying. He's trying so
he
hard to get
he
clout now.
he spoke more about um he spoke more about the fight after it was over.
Yeah,
And
he didn't promote it
I
until
think he was
after.
dishonest. He was dishonest the whole time. And he thought he could outsmart the Paul organization, MVP organization. So I think he's just not a good person for that. He's not. He shouldn't have signed that contract in the first place, and shouldn't have led the camp on because Jake was training for that fight. A lot of other people were training for that fight. And with his mistake, he lost a lot of people's money, and he took a show away from the fans too, because a lot of people were looking forward to that. It looked as if it was going to be Jake's hardest matchup yet. So I think that he shouldn't be respected, and I hope he does get knocked out because especially being the son of a heavyweight champ, you would think that he would have more respect for the sport. You would think that he was more honest. You would think that he had more of a champion spirit, but it seems like just none of the genes passed down, not even the boxing, because respect the sport. UFC guys, they're killing themselves to make weight. A lot of boxers do it too.
And he
And
complains about not he loses 1 pound in 4 weeks. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
there's no way Paulo Costa's weight cut is
easier.
Paulo Costa's weight cut is way harder than Rahman's weight cut. Rahman apparently when he got the call was 220 or something. You just need to drop 20 pounds. And we saw I saw him when he did that whole live thing. You saw him without his shirt. He wasn't ripped. He wasn't super ripped by any means,
Yeah, he never got to a low body fat.
No,
Even
not at
when
all.
he stepped on the scale, he more just looked like it didn't look like he had that much muscle on him. To me, that's what it looked like.
But he wasn't
So
ripped or anything,
yeah, when he stepped on that scale when he did that live, he kind of just looked skinny. So I don't have a lot of respect for the guy. I don't wish him the worst, but I don't want him beating a guy, any of the MMA guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vitor Belfort's also older. I don't want him to, be knocked out or anything. And Rahman, I could care less about. So I want him to lose. More so, I want Belfort to win. So yeah,
I just wonder
I don't think we need to give that fight too much
I'm just curious to see
publicity
what the odds.
because Rahman doesn't deserve it.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can check that right now.
No, I don't think they've made them yet, but I'm just curious to see that because Rahman should probably win this fight, if he's a real boxer. So I don't know. And I'm curious to see if the winner will fight Jake Paul. So we'll see about that. But
Mhm.
some speaking of Jake Paul, apparently he's announcing a fight this week. So maybe by the time this is out, he'll have announced it. But I'm actually interested to see. And he said he's gonna be a big underdog in the fight. So I'm thinking it may be Anderson Silva, which would be sick. I'm hoping that's the case, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to talk too much about that just because maybe by the time this video is out, then they'll have it announced and we'll just sound stupid. So I just wanted to mention it, but
So I guess maybe we could just put in a prediction.
oh
Anderson Silva.
yeah, I think it's gonna be Anderson Silva for sure. And just some more stuff, some more matchmaking. Apparently, the UFC likes the idea of Conor Gaethje, and I'm that gives me some excitement, because that's the fight. That's the fight I'd probably want to see the most. Him versus Gaethje or Conor versus Chandler, because I think either of those fights would be fireworks. And I think more the Gaethje one, since I don't think Gaethje's not shooting a takedown. Chandler might, if Chandler's in some trouble, he'd shoot for a takedown. Gaethje's in trouble, he's not shooting for a takedown no matter what. So I hope the UFC makes that fight. And honestly, that's a winnable fight for Conor for sure. He's a way better striker than Gaethje. Gaethje doesn't have great stamina, Gaethje's been dropped a couple times, like doesn't have the best chin. He's tough, swings like an idiot sometimes, swings like a drunk guy. So I think Conor could maybe put his lights out when he's swinging like a drunk guy, and find that left hand.
Yeah, you guys all don't know my feelings about Justin Gaethje, but Jacob does. I hate his striking. I mean, he throws bombs, whatever. He's a fun fighter to watch. I love watching him, but he fights like a drunk guy. Like against Charles Oliveira, he was swinging over his head. He's a freaking T-Rex. Okay. And, if Conor is a shell of what he was when he fought Eddie Alvarez, I feel like he's going to hand it to Justin Gaethje. So I think also as the fight goes on, I'll favor Justin Gaethje a little bit, but I don't love his stamina either because Conor does push a good pace in those first two rounds. So I've seen Justin Gaethje get tired out. I've seen him just cracked by Poirier and by Oliveira. And I feel like Conor is still a really hard hitting lightweight. And that left hand puts out a lot of people. And he's hard to hit. And Gaethje is not very accurate. So it'll make a more interesting fight for Conor. It's definitely going to be a fireworks matchup. It'll be heavily promoted. It's the return of Conor. Huge hitter in Justin Gaethje. Poirier said it's like a Mack truck going against each other, two Mack trucks going against each other, and one will probably blow up. So I'm really excited if that is the fight. I think that's my favorite fight in the lightweight division for Conor, besides maybe Hooker. But I worry about him against Hooker with, if Hooker does get out of those first 2 or 3 rounds, what will happen then? Because Hooker is a pretty good brawler. We saw that with Poirier. He almost got Poirier out of there too. So I think that I love that matchup for Conor. I really do. Like you said, I don't know if Justin Gaethje forgot how to wrestle or drank too much, got in too many bar fights, smoked too much or whatever, but he doesn't shoot takedowns really anymore. Yeah, no, he said it himself. He said he's a pothead. So, yeah, I mean, I don't hate the guy. I just, he has a simple game and Conor can dissect it pretty well. He is a technician on the feet. And, I could see him, slipping, doing his, Conor head movement and just bouncing his head on the canvas. I know that might be a hot take to some people, but we haven't seen so much of Conor, those 2 fights against Poirier.
He looked good in the first round and the second one also. The second.
He was winning that second fight, the part 2. He was winning that second fight, but losing it at the same time. That's kind of the best way that I can explain it, but he was cracking him. He was landing good punches. like you've said multiple times, he was landing a lot of punches that would put out a lot of guys in the lightweight division. But at the same
Perhaps Justin
time,
Gaethje.
taking those brutal calf kicks, which is something that I would worry about against Justin Gaethje,
Sure.
depending upon if he does his Taekwondo stance or karate stance, or his boxing stance. I hope he does the karate stance because it'll neutralize Gaethje's leg kicks more. But again, Gaethje does swing those leg kicks like a madman too, which I think Conor could take advantage of. So I think there's a lot of things in Justin Gaethje's game which Conor can take advantage of. So I'm really excited for that fight. I hope Conor finishes shooting his movie soon because we want him back in the UFC. Please.
For sure, for sure. Justin Gaethje is such a weird fighter because I feel like he either looks really good or really bad. You know, like in the
The Chandler fight. The Chandler fight,
Yeah,
he looked really good against Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson, Tony Ferguson fight. He looked amazing. He put on a complete masterpiece of a fight, and in the Chandler fight, he also fought really well. But then in like fights like against Oliveira, he just looks like a drunk guy swinging.
Yeah, and I didn't love his fight. I mean, he had a good fight against Poirier, but I think that there were
I don't think he looked great though in that fight. Though.
Yeah, there were a lot of times when he looked out of control, and that knockout was just funny. Like he looked like a chicken, like just wallowing all around. So I don't know. Like you got to respect him. You know, you got to respect his
fighter.
power.
He just doesn't always fight smart.
He puts guys lights out. But yeah, Trevor Whitman can only do so much because when Justin gets into that cage, he sometimes lets his rage, or I don't know exactly what emotion it is, get the best of him. And he tries to kill the guy and swings for the fences. And when he fights controlled, I mean, I think he's a really good fighter when he fights controlled. So it'll come down to what type of Justin Gaethje we see on that night. Because against Chandler, he did look really good, but I think that's also because Chandler fights like a madman too. So, it kind of weighed itself a little bit. And I feel like Chandler had a chance to win that fight. And I don't know if he was even trying to win that fight. Like, I mean, obviously he was trying to win that fight, but
he wasn't like trying to like finish him
very smart. I think that he was very consumed with putting on a show for the fans, which I like about him. Like, he's a performer, which is great for the UFC, especially in the absence of Conor McGregor. So I don't think it's bad what he was doing, but to be honest, I'd like to see that rematch and see how it plays out because I feel like Chandler could snag a victory against him.
Yeah, I don't remember I don't know if there's a UFC fighter ever that just looks completely different in each fight, like Justin Gaethje either looks really good or really bad, I feel,
Who's the guy that he beat?
Michael Johnson.
Yeah, he's one who looks completely different in certain fights. Like against the top contenders, he looks like almost an all-star, and has gotten some pretty big wins. I don't know exactly who they were against, but he's gotten some pretty big wins, but he's also had some really devastating losses. Yeah. So that's the only other person I can think of.
Beat Dustin Poirier.
Yeah. Did he knock him out?
I don't really remember.
I'm gonna check his I'm gonna check his thing right now because I'm interested to see who he has beat because I know
he KO'd him in the first round.
Exactly. It's like,
but his record is like 21-18. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not very good, but he is a journeyman. So there's a place for journeymen in the UFC.
Sure.
So yeah,
I just think that's funny. Speaking of Dustin Poirier, I want to just give the people like what is your predictions for that fight? Because me and Lucas have got Poirier smoking Chandler.
For Poirier Chandler, I'm not gonna count Chandler out, but I feel like although they both have good experience in Bellator, Poirier has really used it to his advantage and has evolved as a fighter in the last few years, truly, and has become one of the best in the sport. You know, although I'm not really sure if he should be so high on pound for pound, there's a reason why he's there. You know, he is a
The fighters
really
respect him.
exactly. And I think that Chandler could beat him. But yeah, I'm favoring Poirier heavily in that match because he's
Also,
just a great boxer. He's just a great boxer.
speaking of predictions, I want to like hear your predictions on UFC Paris. What do you think of that event as a whole? Because we talked about it last week. It could literally be it's as stacked as a pay-per-view. Vittori versus Whitaker as a co-main. Surreal Gone versus Tai Tuivasa the main event. Like, this is an amazing card. Like, this is the best fight night card I've ever seen. Truly.
Yeah, I would agree. The fight has a few decent people in the prelims too.
Yeah.
Joaquin Buckley is headlining the prelims, who, as he says, has the most viral KO of all time. He's the most viral fighter. He fought behind that cop guy on Instagram who teaches self-defense. So he's a cool guy. You know, he lost to Kevin Holland, but he's had some vicious KOs. He won his last fight. And yeah, there's names on there from head to toe. I'm just gonna pull up the card again.
I just saw that. I have some good news on that fight. But now that I looked it up, the Jessica Andrade fight was canceled.
Yeah.
Let's
I don't
go.
know who did they add on to for that. Was it Jourdain versus Wood?
I think they may have. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Dude, now I really
With that fight though, I'm excited for that Charles Jourdain fight because I think he got robbed in that Shane Burgos fight.
perhaps.
I mean, it was a close fight, but
That was
I think
another
he got
weird
robbed,
fight, you know.
and I think he's gonna be hungry. I think he's gonna be hungry.
He's a good.
And
Good.
I love watching him in the octagon. He's a young guy, does have a little bit of T-Rex arms, but you know, I'm excited for him. You know, I think that he's got power, he's got charisma, and he has like that Spartan energy to him. I'm not exactly sure if he like acknowledges, you know, Sparta like Cambosis does, but he has the similar vibe to him where he's like a warrior.
That's actually a really good fight. That's
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that fight. You know, he's had submission wins, he's had decision wins, he's had pretty big KOs. Even in his decision wins, man, he does damage to the other opponents and he imposes his will. He's just a creative striker. I'm not familiar with the lightweights and middleweights who are fighting, but there was a fighter from Glory Kickboxing who was supposed to be on this card. Who
Oh yeah.
I watched.
It was canceled or like something happened.
Yeah.
He got hurt or
So
something.
here's what happened. He was fighting against someone with 6 fights, and he only had 2 fights. And in the MMA when there are fighters with less than 10 fights, there's a certain amount of differences in fights that they can have. So that wasn't sanctioned, but regardless, I'm really excited for this guy in the UFC because I was watching his highlights. Cedric Doumbé. I think he might be French himself. It sounds a little French. I don't know. Don't take my word for that. But you know, he was a Glory Kickboxing champ. He fought in the welterweight division there, and he has a bomb overhand right. That guy was just there was a highlight where the guy had his hands over here. He was below, he was in the clinch, and he went like this, boom, and just put the guy to sleep. He was putting guys to sleep in glory kickboxing, and we've seen what those glory kickboxers can do in Izzy and Pereira. So I'm excited to have another one in the UFC, and I think that he'll do really well. I don't know. I got a good feeling about these glory guys, and they're really good strikers. They get it done, and I hope that he'll get enough good wrestling so that he can prosper in the UFC. But those are really good news to hear always.
Let me ask, what
new and
division?
upper coming. So he fought in welterweight in glory kickboxing, but I'm gonna see if he fought at different weights in mixed martial arts. But he's a 73-inch reach. It says 170, so that'll be difficult in the UFC for sure. Because
All the wrestlers.
there's a ton of wrestlers in that division, so he'll definitely have to work on that. But yeah, he's a 170, which is unfortunate. So maybe we'll get him against Neil Gary at some point. That could be a fun fight.
Yeah.
And he's only 29, so he's relatively young. Sorry, he was born in Cameroon, but he's fighting out of Limoges, France. So he fought. He's been a champion in many organizations. He was Glory Kickboxing champ twice, and he had 5 title defenses. So this guy's legit. Be on the watch for him in the UFC, and I'm excited for what's to come from him. But back to the UFC Paris card. Have you made your official predictions?
Predictions, yeah. Give us some predictions.
So I'll kind of give the ones that I have some sort of information about, because I don't want to give just random predictions based on who looks better, looks cool, or whatever. So I'm gonna go from the bottom and see. So I know Joaquin Buckley is an underdog. I'm kind of just gonna take him because I know who he is more than the other guy. I'm not really sure if the other guy's a wrestler or what. But the ones that I mainly know about are the co-main and main event. And I'm gonna say that Whitaker will win by decision. I don't think it'll be as dominant as you and Lucas said, because Vittori is still really good, and the fight can go many ways because we've seen Whitaker look human before. We've seen him dropped by Romero. I'm not saying Vittori has the power of Romero, but we've seen him drop. We've seen him, knocked out by Izzy. We've seen him stumble, be light on his feet, and we haven't really seen that from Vittori. So it'll be interesting to see how Vittori's chin holds up. It'll be interesting to see how Whitaker's chin holds up. And as the fight goes on, I think that it'll get closer and closer. I think Whitaker will probably start pretty hot because I feel like he is the more technical striker. Overall, more of the better fighter. But I think as the fight goes on and it becomes more of a dogfight, which I think it inevitably will be, I think it'll get a lot closer. And I think that it'll be a pretty close decision. But I do think I'm going to give the edge to Whitaker. And with Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa, it just kind of feels like deja vu a little bit with him versus Derek Lewis. I know Derek Lewis is older. Tai Tuivasa KO'd him, but let's not miss the fact that Tuivasa was in trouble in that fight also. Derek Lewis was scoring shots on him. He was scoring good, significant strikes on him. And we've seen Ciryl Gane evade power punchers like Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. Although he lost the Francis Ngannou fight, Francis didn't really land any huge clean shots on him. And Ciryl is just so fast for that division, so fluid for that division. He's light on his feet. He moves around. He fights at a good pace. And although it's 5 rounds and it'll be harder to bounce on his feet for 5 rounds. I feel like it'll play out similar to the Lewis fight where, Surreal Gone has Ty fighting off his back foot and catches him in the corner and throws some good combos and eventually overwhelms him. Because I don't know how good of stamina Tuivasa has. Like, I don't know if he's ready for a 5-rounder. It'll be interesting to see his conditioning. But as the fight goes on, like, I just don't know how much of a beating he can take from Surreal Gone because he's gonna take a beating. Surreal Gone is like definitely a top 5 striker, I think, in the UFC, especially in that heavyweight class. What he's doing at that weight is crazy. Like
Looks
the
like a
fact
middleweight.
that, yeah,
Like a middleweight.
yeah, for real. Like he's bouncing off his feet. He's throwing head kicks left and right. The oblique kick is always there. He's rangy. But I just like the only way I see Tuivasa winning is by KO. And that actually makes it very interesting and weird for the division. Because I don't know if all you guys remember when Francis Ngannou fought Derek Lewis. It was a very weird and horrible fight. Probably a top 5 worst fight in the UFC, where neither of them wanted to throw punches because each respected the other power. And I'm wondering if a Tai Tuivasa fight, if that happens, versus Francis Ngannou will be a similar fight because I don't know how inclined Francis is to get into a brawl with guys like that. He definitely didn't want to do it with Lewis, but I don't know how he's changed or how Tuivasa is different than Lewis. I know he's not the same fighter, but they're typical heavyweights who have a lot of power and can take you out at any moment, but aren't the fastest. So I don't like Tuivasa in this fight against Gane. I feel like it's a pretty simple win for Gane.
By finish.
Yeah, I think by TKO probably.
Yeah, I agree. I got Whitaker by decision 50-45. And then I got but at the same time, like you said, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be like a 50-45 where it's like he dominates these rounds. I think
You think it'll be close rounds?
I think they'll be close rounds, but I think he'll clearly win them. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying 50-45. And I don't Whitaker Vittori's got a ridiculous chin. Like he probably has the best chin in the UFC. So he's not getting knocked out. But and then in terms of the main event, Surreal Gone versus Tai Tuivasa, I just I think it's kind of a mismatch, to be honest. Like I don't really see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know why they booked this fight.
I get it. Like, I mean, he's popular. They did an event in Paris, so they had to feature Gane. They wanted to give him like a winnable fight, and the most winnable fight is Tuivasa in the top 5. So I get it, but it's just it's not going to be a close fight. I don't think. I think Tuivasa is going to be overwhelmed, and I think he's going to get. Gane will just dominate, honestly. It'll be like you said. I think it'll be a lot similar to the Derek Lewis fight, where he finished Derek Lewis, I think, in the 3rd round. And I'm gonna have the same prediction as I'm gonna say it's gonna be the same outcome. I think Surreal Gane will finish Tai Tuivasa in the 3rd round. I would say, yeah, 3rd round.
Yeah,
TKO. I don't think he's gonna put his lights out by any means. I think he's just gonna like over the first 3 rounds. I think he's just gonna just keep landing,
overwhelm him. Yeah,
overwhelm him and tire him out. And I think he'll eventually get the finish in the 3rd round. But I'm excited. I'm excited for this card. I think it's like I said, it's the best. It's the best fight night ever. That's what I think. I think it's it's unbelievable.
it could be.
This could have been Surreal Gone, Tai Tuivasa, Whitaker, Vittori. That could be a pay-per-view. I
there have been worse pay-per-views. For sure.
There's definitely been worse pay-per-views than that. And this, you literally could add one more good fight, and that's a really good pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's definitely top heavy. I will say that.
Yeah, it's top heavy, but just having those 2 fights on a fight night is ridiculous because Whitaker versus Vittori, I mean, those are guys who Whitaker won the belt, Vittori's fought for the belt. So that could be a main event, if
Mhm.
Whitaker was, I mean, because Whitaker is a championship fighter, you know, so like that itself is like, I mean, I'm not saying that like they would book that as a as like a main event for pay-per-view. I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
for
Is it 5
I
rounds or they're going 3?
don't probably that's
I
actually
hope 5. I hope 5.
oh
That'd be great. I think
I
it'll probably be 3, but
oh wow. So I'll say I'm gonna still my prediction will still be Whitaker wins 3-0 in terms of rounds. So
yeah, I think the 3 rounds favors Whitaker more.
yeah, I would say so also. But if I'm Vittori, I'm just trying to make this a dogfight, to be honest.
Yeah.
If he doesn't make it a dogfight, he's gonna just get dominated by Whitaker. Like Whitaker will just land. Like he's not gonna get Vittori's not gonna get finished, but like
I
he's
kind
gonna
of want to see their reach
pieced up.
because
Get pieced up. Yeah, I mean, I think they're similar sizes, you know, like yeah, they're the
yeah,
same reach.
yeah. So
Yeah, so it's I
I don't
just
know
think
if
that
he'll exactly piece him up, but he'll probably land a better shot.
I mean Vittori Whitaker's like I think there's a difference in there are different levels, you know. Like I think Whitaker is a decent amount better than Vittori. You know,
Yeah.
like, I think he's definitely better than him. Like I think Izzy and Whitaker are like I mean besides
Uh,
Pereira is like a little different. Like but in terms of Izzy and I think Izzy and Whitaker are like way better than everybody else in that division. Like I think Whitaker
yeah.
beats anybody that's not Izzy. Like similar like with Volk and Max Holloway.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Like I think that's a case of that. And I think Whitaker is just gonna be too good for Vittori, honestly. Like I think he's just gonna like just like piece him up, you know. But if I'm Vittori, like I'm making this a dogfight, or at least attempting to make this a dogfight, you know. Like I mean, like Whitaker doesn't have crazy power, so like I don't think like and Vittori's got the best chin. Like it's like I don't think there's a risk of him getting knocked out. So I would like to see Whitaker. I would like to see Vittori make it a dogfight. But regardless, I don't think it would make a difference. And I got Robert Whitaker by decision. And then yeah, like I said, in terms of the main event, I got Surreal Gone by 3rd round TKO. But I'm just very
Yeah, I agree.
hard. I mean, like if either of these guys lose, like if it goes the opposite way, if Tai Tuivasa knocks out Surreal Gone, that'd be kind of cool too. If Vittori beats Whitaker, I mean, I'd be a little upset about that since I love Robert Whitaker. But it wouldn't be the end of the world though. You know, like, I think it would still be interesting. And I think yeah, like you said, a Tai Tuivasa versus Francis fight would be
I
very
wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like it.
yeah, but I mean honestly, I think Francis would KO him, honestly, like easy. Like, I think light work. Francis is a lot better than he was when he fought Derek Lewis.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's become a far more experienced fighter. You can now mix in wrestling too, which is
perhaps.
pretty scary for that heavyweight
Yeah,
division.
he's just so strong. Like, I mean, I don't even think he's a good wrestler. I just think he's like, or like a great wrestler.
I don't know. He had that Gon technique where he like flipped him over. It was pretty good. Like he had pretty good timing there. I mean, I'm not going to say he's the best wrestler, but I don't think that it's only strength because yes, strength is going to help, and that's with everything. Strength is going to help with striking, you know, but it's not. There's still, you know, a lot of technique to it. There are certain takedowns that, yeah, are more of just brute strength, but you know, catching a guy, getting one leg, I'm pretty sure he sweeped the other leg. So
Something like that.
yeah, so I mean, I was impressed. I was impressed. And I hope that, you know, him and UFC work out whatever differences they have. And he's fighting for a belt soon.
Yeah, I think. I mean, he already has the belt, but I think.
Yeah, like I mean, like defending his belt.
I think. I think the UFCs are going to do Jon Jones versus Francis at this point because like I think I mean they like the idea of Stipe versus Jones. Like they said it publicly and all that. And Jon Jones was wanted to do that fight, but Stipe clearly didn't want the fight. You know, like we haven't heard anything from him. So I think they're just gonna like hold Jones out a little bit longer and have him fight Francis in his return, and that's gonna be good fight. Because we'll see. I think we'll know right away what the outcome will be because it's going to be interesting to see if Jones will be able to take him down and keep him down just because of how big Francis is. Like I think the Stipe fight, I think it would be an easier fight for Jones since they're a little bit more similar in size. And I think Jones would be easier for him to take him down. But a guy like Francis, who's like right now, like 295 or something, Jon Jones is not walking around more than like 250, and Francis doesn't even seem like fat or anything, like he's just big, and I don't know if Jones would be able to take him down because he's so big, but and if Jones can't take him down, he's getting smoked by Francis, so that's
the thing with Jon Jones too, like you said, he doesn't really have a thought of losing in him. So even if he can't take him down, he might try to strike with him, be quick with him. I don't know if Francis is going to take Jon Jones down per se. So on the feet, I think that it's a good fight. If Francis does land like clean, it's over. But I think that
Jones could avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. I think having Jon Jones go straight into that Francis fight does not favor him. It doesn't help him. It helps Francis a lot because guys have to get used to fighting at heavyweight. You have to get used to carrying more weight. Being able to last 5 rounds with that weight, moving around, striking, everything. You're basically in a new body. So I wish that he would have had a fight before the Ngannou fight, but like you said, it's not looking like he will. Regardless, I'm really excited for the matchup.
Yeah, I think that's the fight that was the kind of like the reason Jones decided.
Yeah, it's a super fight.
It's a massive fight. Like that's selling a million pay-per-views on. I think.
Yeah, I hope so.
There's not that many fights in the UFC at this point that could sell the million pay-per-views. I don't think
there haven't been that many.
There hasn't been any since Conor. So I think that's a huge fight, and I think the UFC want to do that fight if they can work a deal out with Francis. But I also really was interested in the Stipe Jones fight because I think like
technically it'd be a fun fight.
That seemed like I think that's an easier fight for Jones. I want to see Jones succeed at heavyweight, and I think it's Francis. That's a really tough fight for Jones, and like I would maybe favor Francis. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we'll know until we see Jones stepping in the octagon or see further sparring footage because, he might not move like he did at light heavyweight.
No.
He might not be as great of a wrestler at heavyweight. So I don't know. I think the biggest nightmare for Jones in that division is Curtis Blades. For sure. I mean, other than that, I feel like he could find a way to beat Francis. If he could, Jon Jones,
if he drags into the later rounds, he could beat Francis.
Which I think he can. I don't know if Francis can land clean on him because the time where he beat Stipe the second time, he was fighting against an older Stipe. He didn't have as much speed as he did before, and he had a lapse, and you don't know if you're going to get that from Jon Jones. He's fought against some big punchers, although obviously no one's as big of a puncher as Ngannou. He's fought against Thiago Santos. At that time,
Jackson.
Right, yeah, exactly. He's fought against power punchers. Gustafsson's also a big power puncher, and his chin held up, and more so, he didn't get hit as much.
Jones is hard to hit,
Yeah, and when you mix in the wrestling, when you mix in his guard game, when you mix in his kicks, those kicks are just brutal. And I think that
also with Francis's knee not being great now,
Yeah, he's gonna attack that. And I mean, Jones does have skinny legs, so maybe it'll break on Francis's leg, but it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a great fight. And I think that's what the UFC needs right now. A big fight like that while Conor is gone. I don't think they've had, I think Brock Lesnar has sold 1
Ronda
million
Rousey.
Conors, Ronda, Khabib, Poirier with Conor, Diaz with Conor. And I think that might be it. Um, it's hard to do a million,
It is hard. And the thing about the UFC is like they're making money no matter what. It's just like it's just more the fans.
It's good. Yeah.
It's for the fans though, like
Uh,
like a Francis Jones fight is like what the people have been talking about for years. Like yeah, the Stipe fight is very interesting too. I think Jon Jones any heavyweight fight is interesting, but like any Jon Jones fight is interesting at heavy. Yeah, like and I mean I was gonna say every Jon Jones fight is interesting, but it stopped being interesting at light heavyweight. But
Yeah.
every Jon Jones fight at heavyweight, any fight he would take would be interesting to see Jon Jones. But I just think with Francis, like it's just like it's so unpredictable, Like I feel like with Stipe, like we can kind of like we could Jones would probably win that fight, Jones would probably beat Tom Aspinall. Jones would probably beat Cyril Gane. But Francis Ngannou, like that's a tricky one just because of Francis's size, because I mean Jones is gonna have the speed, Jones is gonna have the skill. But if he can't take Francis down, like I don't
that punch might come at some point.
That's
like
gonna
with Pereira.
Pereira. Exactly. I just like so I don't know though. Like that's a big fight. And that's what we want to see though. We want this unpredictability. Like, so like I just really am hoping that the UFC book Francis Jones for January or something, maybe December. Jon Jones said he's ready to fight in December. But
Yeah.
France, we just have to see when Francis is ready to return, and that if the UFC could make it work out a deal with him. But I hope Francis returns. I like Francis, like he's one of my favorite.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. And before anything, before we go, just wanted to say one more. I just wanted to give one more like.
Yeah, I also have a final point too.
Yeah. Let's hear your final point.
When we're talking about pay-per-view buys and 1 million who's getting the UFC kind of becoming more mainstream, I think the fans and the UFC both want the UFC to become more mainstream. They want it to become one of those big sports like the NHL or the NFL, the NBA. And I know that there is some talk about broadcasting more UFC fights on national television. They've done it recently with ABC. So I'm hoping, like, screw all this 1 million pay-per-view, all that. I want there to be some nationally broadcasted fights for everyone to see. I want everyone to see this Francis versus Jones fight. I want everyone to see the beauty of this sport because I've gotten into the sport like relatively recently. I also one of the first fights I watched was Khabib versus Conor, and that shook up the world. There were many. I remember I was at a hockey tournament. I had a game the next morning, and I didn't really even follow the UFC at that point. But me and a few of my friends, all tuned into that. We all wanted to see the Conor McGregor fight against this guy Khabib, who looked like a monster. And there was this beef going on, and I want the whole world to be able to see that. So
see how good the UFC is.
Yeah, I want them to see the greatness. So I'm hoping that in the coming years that'll happen. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to mention when we're talking about sales and all that.
Definitely, and I think that has more to do with like Dana White wanting to make as much money as possible. Honestly,
Well, when you have national television, does help too, because the ads become more expensive for the people to pay for because you are now broadcasting to more viewers. So I'm pretty sure that the ads will become more and sponsorships.
I don't know though, because pay-per-views are like really making.
Yeah, you definitely make a lot, and I think that
but that's a,
I
I
think
get
that they should more mix it in. They should
yeah,
mix
yeah,
in
I
more
I
national
agree with you. I
television.
agree with you. And also, especially for those pay-per-views that aren't like a Yuri versus Glover pay-per-view, like that one with Valentina Shevchenko as the co-main, and then Amanda Nunes, that one card with Pena Nunes too, like as the main event. Like those had no business being like real pay-per-view fights, even though they were great cards, but like those shouldn't have been pay-per-view fights. So maybe have a fight like those fights on like the
Yeah,
mainstream.
or the
Still gonna
UFC
be
fight night,
yeah,
because a lot of these fight nights and these underwhelming pay-per-views before the fact, when you see not many big names and it's like, oh, why is this a pay-per-view? Why do I have to pay $80 for this? And then, maybe you pay $80 for it, maybe you illegally stream it or whatever, but you see those fights and some of them really do end up being great fights, because when you have the not as large names, they have less to lose and they have more to prove. So they want to put on a show. And these guys get in brawls. Nate Landwehr, however you pronounce his name,
oh
they
yeah.
put on a show, that like there are a lot of times where I don't remember what was it, the one where there was 10 finishes? Was that the Yuri one? Or was that,
That
oh,
was
Jamal Hill? That was a fight night.
yeah,
So
nobody thought that was gonna
so
be a good fight
you
night.
know, these cards all have
Potential.
potential to be big. And the more you put those
Besides
um
Israel Adesanya cards.
the more you put those uh into the public eye, the more revenue the UFC will be, and the more they will get, and the more they will be able to get viewers for those bigger pay-per-view fights. So I think it would be really smart to broadcast it to the rest of the world. And it would be fun for us UFC fans to be able to talk about it at the bar, talk about it at dinner, talk about it in school, talk about it at our jobs. And, people know what we're talking about. People be like, oh, I was watching, TV last night and I saw that. It was a crazy fight. You know what I mean? And people are stumbling through their channels and, oh my God, this guy's getting beat up. So I think it's an interesting thing to play with for the UFC. And I hope that, whatever decision they make, I wish them the best with it.
I agree with I like that idea a lot actually. I'm even noticing like they're posting more UFC stuff on ESPN and stuff already. Like for that whole
Mhm.
Usman Edwards, like they were like they're
Yeah.
breaking up, like that's good. I like that, like they were going on the Stephen A. Smith show, Skip Bayless, like
Hmm.
and Sharp. Like that's I like that's the fighters need to do, let's make UFC bigger, like let's make it like you said, an NFL, an NHL, and NBA. Let's make it this a mainstream sport, it's the best sport by far. Nothing like Usman Edwards would happen
Come
in
on, guys. When does
what
that
other
happen
sport
in
is something
sport?
like that happening in? You know what I mean? Like, so like the UFC is the best sport, and it's not even a question. And we just need more people to see that. And that was a great idea. Like they needed just to like maybe have it on television, like maybe once a month or something even. Have people go on more talking shows, like post it more on ESPN. And I think we can get UFC to be like an NBA or NHL or
Yeah,
NFL.
I mean, they're already the biggest MMA promotion, and like we've seen them catapult stars into mainstream Hollywood. Conor McGregor, I know he did most of it himself, but UFC was his tool to help that.
Usman,
Patty the
Black
Batty,
Panther.
he's going, yeah. Usman is now on Black Panther. Patty the Batty is at all these Padre games, throwing pitches and whatever. And
Versus Barstool.
uh, yeah, there's so much possibility, so much potential for the UFC. Um, they've done great already. Uh, they've helped a lot of fighters get great brand deals. Colby Covington is probably making more off that Bang contract than he is off his UFC contract. And yes, there are problems with that. There are problems with the UFC pay and everything, but we can't deny that UFC promotes these fighters better than any other promotion. So although I like what a lot of the other MMA promotions are doing. I like how the PFL is having these seasons and
I like that
championships.
actually.
I like one championship a lot too. I know we didn't get to talk about it much, but I loved Mighty Mouse,
Yeah.
um giving his opponent a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah.
It was interesting, he was losing that fight in
Yeah,
the
he
first two
was.
rounds. I thought,
Literally.
he was getting dominated a little bit on the ground. Really showed a lot of good ground game still. Not ground and pounded, landing elbows, landing a sharp elbow, which cut up his opponent, which I think probably played a part in the urgency of his opponent trying to end the fight earlier. And Mighty Mouse just took it over in the third round, and eventually scored that knockout. And knee to the face. So that was cool. And also Rod Tang. Rod Tang is another guy who Mighty Mouse beat, but is just a world class striker. It's just his Muay Thai is amazing. So the mixed martial arts world is great and it's beautiful and it should be showcased. And I think that national television is a great place to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And also, speaking of the Mighty Mouse thing, like that was the worst. That was the biggest L in UFC history, losing Mighty Mouse for Ben Askren.
Oh my god!
Mighty Mouse, honestly, like might
he's the best flyweight of all time.
No, but he might you could legitimately make an argument for him the GOAT. Like he's ridiculous. Like people don't realize how good Mighty Mouse truly was. Like, and like the dude was on another level. He's still really good, as we can tell. What is Ben Askren now? He's getting knocked out by Jake Paul.
Exactly. Exactly. When I was watching that fight, I was just thinking to myself, Mighty Mouse is knocking guys to the canvas right now. And about 2 years ago, Ben Askren was getting flatlined onto the canvas by a YouTuber. I know Jake Paul has proven to be a lot more since then, but come on now. He had 3 fights in the UFC, I think.
Yeah.
Was a victim of one of the most vicious knockouts. So, come on, UFC. That was an L, but hopefully Shane Burgos doesn't become another huge L. I don't think it'll be obviously it won't be as big, but leave Ben Askren for them. Come on.
I don't get how you could what did you see in Ben Askren? I don't.
He was fun on the mic. He was fun on the mic.
He was funny. Yeah, Ben Askren was funny.
And Demetrius Johnson wasn't very loud. He was never very
also
loud.
That division, the flyweight division at that point, and even now is still not it's not like a really popular division. I think that was more the reason why they did it, and he was just dominating, so it just wasn't entertaining at all. But I actually honestly think that Demetrius Johnson at this point would beat Davison Figueiredo if they fought.
100%. I think so.
Or Brandon or any of those guys.
A lot of people, I think, would agree with you on that he would be the best flyweight in that division because his speed, he has everything.
He's a
mixed martial artist.
Doesn't have a
mixed martial artist. Yeah, he doesn't. So,
and that's crazy that whatever age he is, he may I don't know exactly his age, 38, 39 or something, that he could still would be able to go back in his sport, back to the UFC and just go from where he left off. That's ridiculous, and we haven't seen anything like that since a guy like George St. Pierre. When he came back, but that was a little bit different too. He wasn't as old, but still, it's crazy to think it's crazy that that's the case,
and he's 36, so he's not even that old. So
and when did the UFC get rid of him, by the way? Was it?
And Ben Askren's 38, so let's see.
2017? I think it was 2017.
I'm just gonna check when his last fight was in the UFC. His last fight was 2018.
So they took a
So
real, how many years? That was 4 years ago. So he was 32 when he left.
yeah, and a lot of fighters enter their prime at that time. So just a dumb move. And he's had pretty much 2 super fights since then. A lot of people in one championship consider his most recent fight a super fight. And they'll probably end up having a trilogy. And everyone has the same reaction to this. And they say, the UFC traded this guy? Adriano Moraes. Sorry, he was the opponent. I blanked out on his name before, but yeah, so I think they might have a trilogy. That Rod Tang fight was fun, man. One Championship did a really cool thing with that, where they switched off rounds between being Muay Thai and MMA rules. So the first fight was on the feet, sweeps, but I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think you can like go on the ground. I'm like 90% sure that you can't. And then the next round would be MMA, and eventually the Mighty Mouse ended up winning in one of the MMA rounds where he choked him out. But that was a fun fight. They're both fast, they're both little, they're both powerful, and Rod Tang's got a chin on him. So I don't get it. Dumb move. But there's a lot of good going on in the martial arts world right now. So I'm excited to where it will go. I'm excited where it'll go.
If Mighty Mouse was still in the UFC, he would have like 20 title defenses at this point.
Yeah.
He's on it. He was way
31-4. He's 31-4. Like, that's ridiculous. So good.
That's ridiculous.
His only loss pretty much in the UFC
Henry Cejudo
was when he's moved up. Dominic Cruz and Henry Cejudo.
Yeah.
And Brad Pickett.
Yeah, I mean, Mighty Mouse, like one of the GOATs for sure, like definitely top 4, top 3, maybe. Like definitely one of the GOATs. He's one last thing before we go. And speaking of GOATs, like it's actually kind of crazy how like Usman was literally like 1 win away from being like in the top 4 GOATs. And then now he's like, I don't really know where you could really like. I think that, like you said, that I think earlier in the episode, like that really hurt his legacy a lot. And like, it's so hard to know where to put Usman on the GOAT list at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you were to be,
I think that it helps us as fans a little bit because he's more inclined to fight against Chimaev because he has something more to prove. So
kind of,
I'm not too angry about it. There was a possibility, we never know, but there was a possibility that he would retire after that Edwards fight. We will never know. Maybe if he won, he would have retired. We don't know because that would have cemented him far higher on the GOAT list than he is right now. I don't
still
think
top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I feel for the man. I feel for him. He put up a really good fight. He was winning that fight, and he got caught, and it's cost him really, really, really heavily. But I don't know how much we can take away from this man because he was still winning the fight. But that's how martial arts goes.
It just sucks to get like viciously knocked out like that for your like first ever loss in the UFC. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like,
but I feel like that was what was going to happen.
That sucks.
That's how it had to happen.
That like the last minute, like right when it happened, I was like so happy for Leon and all that stuff. But like rewatching, like I saw like one of these like the fighter spotlights or something. They showed Usman before the fight, after the fight. I really feel for Usman. I feel bad. Like that sucks. Like you said, like being up the whole fight until the last minute and getting like KO'd by a head kick. Like that sucks.
I have to say, I like Usman a little bit more now.
I do also. He
the
took
way
the
he handled it.
well.
Yeah, he handled it really well, and I do kind of feel bad for him because he's done like really good. It was nice like seeing someone score a crazy knockout like that. And I thought it would shut him up, but it didn't. Uh, but I'm glad to see that he's in good spirits. I'm glad to see that he's not hurt. Um, and I'm excited to see him fight again. I mean, he's not my favorite fighter, but he became a little bit more likable to me after this, just because he handled it well. He wasn't making excuses. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think that he was never too cocky. He's always been kind of humble, but like Izzy, he was kind of cringy to me a little bit, with like all of his motivational speeches and
Yeah, thinking he's
like
the coolest guy.
self like, yeah. It was like every time he was on the mic, I kind of just like was like, oh my god, like what? I remember he was putting on a fake accent. He was like to Leon Edwards, you and Mendham didn't do anything. And then he's imitating Conor all the time. He's let's wrestle, let's wrestle. And then he's doing the green panties or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like, it
You know
just
what
felt
Usman
so
is?
forced with him.
Usman is like Usman is like one of those like old people or parents who like think that they're like young still. Like
yes, yes,
that's
yes.
literally what Usman is. Like,
Yeah.
like that's the best way to
He's a
describe it.
wannabe. He's a
Yeah.
wannabe. Yeah,
But
and
also
he tries to be with the program, tries to
tries
have
to be
these
hip,
cool
like
phrases. He always wants to be quoted. It's so clear. He always tries to have these one-liners that are like cold. You know what I mean? And wants to be in the TikTok edits and wants to be like,
but then nobody does it
take the
because it's just
division
not cool,
over.
like no, but
Yeah, because I don't know what it is about it. I guess some people don't have it.
doesn't have the charisma. But I like
Yeah.
Usman. Like you said, I started liking him even more like after this past how he took the fight, like the loss. But I do kind of think Usman was trying a little hard to like make it seem like, oh, like I'm not hurt at all. Or, like my spirits are so good. You know what I mean? Like going out, like he was literally
No,
he's posting on TikToks, like making TikToks like not TikTok, like posting like Snapchats right after the fight, like all that stuff. He went on like TMZ, just like glad he's okay, but like it's clear that like he's trying to like like be like act like he's not hurt at all.
Look, if you are taking that much time and putting that much effort into trying to show the public that you're not hurt, there's a part of you that's hurt.
I mean, that's what he's doing. That's literally what he's
He
doing.
could have just been quiet. But he's projecting. But I mean, it's fine. Like,
no, like
it's
I like it.
harmless. I don't really
like it in a way because like I'm glad he's okay. Like I'm glad he's not making like excuses or any of that. But like it's just so clear that he's just trying to like make it a point that he's okay. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
But like much respect to Usman though at the end of the day. But yeah, I think it'd be a great time to call the podcast for the day. But it's been a great episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, Sammy. We are gonna be trying to get out another podcast this week with Lucas, me and Lucas, the usual. But if not, then we'll see you guys next week. But thank you for coming on, Sammy.
Yep, thank you. MMA